Today on the Tell It Like It Is Hip Hop News Reaction Podcast, we're going to talk about some of the controversial statements that Kanye said, man. Do we like what he's saying as far as the slavery? Stay tuned. Yes, this is SP, the artist, everyone signing in today from the Tell It Like It Is Hip Hop News Reaction Podcast. And I want to jump right into it today. First off, I would like to say before I get into it, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can receive the latest updates of my latest episode postings. Anyway, let's get right to it. Want to talk about the controversial statements Kanye made in his interview with Charlamagne the God and also his TMZ appearance. First off, I would like to say that I wholeheartedly agree with him. We should all have free thought. And we should all focus on only the things that we have in our control and understand that we cannot please everyone and accept that. And that's not a bad thing. We're all different and we're similar in certain ways. And I think that's a blessing. If we didn't have our differences, life would be a lot more monotonous and boring and bland. I feel like that's what makes us interesting. We have different issues. And another thing I want to say is I'm not going to mistreat or think of someone differently because they share different religious or political views, or if they're religious or political at all. I can coexist with them, have many friends that have very varying different opinions when it comes to politics and religion and just other just social and moral behaviors. So, we definitely shouldn't, look at Kanye as a lesser human being based on some of his opinions. Although I don't agree with any of Trump's racial policies or any of that stuff. The positive of it is it shows that we need to focus on being independent as human beings, not just blacks, financially. And also it shows that even if someone is against you and doesn't want you to succeed at something, if you stay focused on work people, you can succeed at it. And I feel like that was a good thing that it showed. And we shouldn't focus on the negatives and the parts that we can't control. The guy's in office. If we get out there and more of us vote actively, he may not make a second term, and that's a good thing. I look at it like that. We can only do our best, and then just simply be the change that we want to be in our own personal life. Complaining about government or anyone else, it's not going to solve anything. And in terms of what he said as far as the slavery and it being a choice, it actually was a choice, but we weren't aware of neuroplasticity back then. If you read the Willie Lynch letter, it talks about the psychological warfare used to break us mentally. And that also wouldn't hold, but it would give them enough time and probably like a couple hundred years to do whatever they need to do to position themselves. Now, had we known back then about neuroplasticity, of course, we could have rewired our thinking and, plotted the uprise. We did a lot of planning. The Underground Railroad, just a lot of stuff, the businesses and stuff we built back then, right behind slavery and stuff. So we were great at strategizing and figuring things out. At the time, the mental, processing worked on us, and that's all it is. But right now, as of now that we understand neuroplasticity, we can actually break the effects that just came down from our ancestors, just habits. It's just paradigms. And that's the only thing I really wanted to touch on today is that although what he said seemed disrespectful to the idea of our ancestors being enslaved, it actually was the fact. It's the same thing with an elephant. You anchor him down when he's young and he's going to pull at his leg as he's tied down and it's going to cut and hurt him. So he's going to think that when he's tied, even as an adult, and he can easily pull the stake out with a rope attached to it, he's not going to do it. He's been conditioned, and that's pretty much where we were. But now, as we understand neuroplasticity, we can rewire our thinking and we can free our minds, and that's pretty much what free thinking is. And another thing, I'm going to say this again: read Thinking Fast and Slow by Dr. Daniel Kahneman, so you can understand about the 25 or more cognitive biases that we have as humans. None of us are perfect by default in terms of mental health, and we have to become aware to check our thinking, and we shouldn't shame each other or feel ashamed of being human because we're not perfect. We just simply need to focus on evolving and going through those processes. Even a sculpture looks disgusting in the early stages until it's finalized. And that's pretty much a work in progress and how he is. We just take steps. So the good and the bad are all part of our growing and evolutionary processes. Everyone is equal as human beings, period. It's just how you think about yourself and your self-image. Psycho-cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz wrote that book. Read that book as well so you can understand that a lot of this stuff has to do with self-image. That was why the psychological warfare worked so well on us. They were able to attack our self-image as Black people. But now we learn that all of that stuff is false in programming, and we can literally, rewire our thinking. So research a little bit about neuroplasticity and what that means for us as a society as a whole, and how we all can reprogram our thinking. We've been programmed on many levels: Caucasians, Blacks, Asians. In terms for marketing and a lot of other agendas, we've been nudged one way or another. So while that being said, we've had the breakthrough of understanding that we can now rewire our thinking. So, okay, we can't fight and fuss over the fact that we had this programming and came down through generations and has become a huge paradigm within our communities. We can make a paradigm shift by just rewiring that thinking and challenging traditional thought. And that's pretty much what I feel Kanye is saying. And although I may not agree with his approach at all times, I have to agree with some of the general points that he's making. And being upset with him is not going to change anything. It's not going to push us forward. And us attacking Blacks and trying to embarrass each other is not going to do anything. The man is not crazy. He just has a difference of opinion. I feel like he was right in terms of the politics already on how he was writing. The way he went about it, I didn't agree. But he did admit that he had some problems. Anyway, this is SP the Artist signing out. You can leave some comments and tell me what you all think. You may think differently down below. And like I said, subscribe again and enjoy your day. Episode 3, signing out.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.